Hello. So I finally got around to answering some of your questions that you posted on the Facebook post. So the first question is from Connie Parrott. Hello, Connie. She said, how long do you think the Moreton Fourier series is going to last? Any plans for a series after that? Will everything always be genealogy related? That's 3 questions, Connie, but I'll let you have those. So the first one, how long do I think it's going to last? I don't know. I've got several ideas for more books, at least another 3 in my head, and that's usually what I have in my head, and then more come along. So there's no plans to end the series just yet. A series after that, I probably will do work on other books in between Moreton. That's the plan. The next one I'm doing, in fact, will be a historical fiction, but probably not with much genealogy in it. So there'll be some and some. Yes, thank you, Connie. And that question was from Liz Davis as well. Jane Goodwin. In the America Ground, there was a lovely lady with a blonde bob. Will she and her dog Ruby be returning? No, Mother, you will not be returning in my books. So no. Wendy Percival. Do you go searching for the next book idea, or does an idea come to you? I haven't yet had to search for an idea. They do seem to just appear in my head, usually from doing research, doing my family tree. I will come across a story or a newspaper article or something that triggers something in my brain to think that would be a good basis for a story, and it kind of evolves very slowly from there. So I'm usually planning 2 or 3 books in advance in my head, very roughly, but I haven't yet had to search for a story. Maybe one day. Carol Helson. To write on the subjects in your novels, you must be a very accomplished genealogist and historian. Do you have a background in history, and were you ever a professional genealogist? I've been researching my family tree for lots of years. I kind of started when I was about 12 and didn't have a clue what I was doing, and would just gather family photos together and draw up family tree charts, not really knowing what I was doing, and then started a bit more seriously in about 1998. So I've always been interested in family history, and I love local history. So my very first books were about Hastings, and they were non-fictions. I'm not a professional genealogist, though. Moreton is better at it than me, I'm afraid. Annie Lightly, sorry. Which interest came first, the writing or the genealogy, and why? As I said, I think it was the genealogy that came first, but I've always enjoyed writing stories, always, for as long as I can remember. And when I did a master's degree in creative writing, I came up with the idea then of bringing genealogy into my writing, and that's when basically the idea for Hiding the Past was born. So yeah, genealogy came first, then the writing, I think. Where am I up to? Megan Layden Eichner. Do you base your characters on people you know? How about their names? Where do they come from? Most of the characters in the books are fictional. Some of them, like Miss Latimer, she's kind of sort of loosely based on a real person whose name I cannot divulge, but most of the time they are fictional characters that I've made up. And where the names come from, that's a tricky one. When I'm writing the past narratives of the books, particularly ones that are set like America Ground and the Wicked Trade, like in the 1820s, there seem to be, you very quickly run out of names once you've used James, Elizabeth, Henry, John, George, Anne, and so it can be quite tricky to keep recycling the same names. But for more modern names and for surnames, I tend to look in. I've got several, like a book on an encyclopedia of the Battle of Britain, for example. It lists all the pilots, and so I'll just go through and I'll pick some interesting names that sound a bit unusual, a bit quirky. That's where the names come from usually. It's as simple as that. Barry Jones, does the book cover mean that some of the story is set in Dorset? I think you're referring to the combination book of The Wicked Trade and Suffragette Secret, which looks like it's Gold Hill in Shaftesbury, but actually it's Mermaid Street, and that's in Rye, where Moreton lives. In his house, you can see it in the picture. So no, it's not set in Dorset. It's set around Kent and Sussex. Shay Farnsworth, where do you find the inspiration for these stories and what put you on this path? So as I said previously, this inspiration kind of just comes organically without me having to look for it. I will be just doing some research, or I found a story just 2 nights ago, which I won't tell you about yet because it might make a Moreton book of the future. But something came up and I thought that's a really interesting premise, and that just then sits in my mind and festers there for a while, and slowly it gets added to and it evolves and develops, and that's kind of where they come from. June Jones, I think you're just bored now you've finished the latest book, but I'll be really interested to see all your answers. Yeah, no, I'm not bored. There's a process, June, that I have to go through, and writing the book. Once the book's finished, I then have to do all the promotion and marketing and so forth, and it gives me a gap to do this kind of interaction. Mary Fulweiler, is it Fulweiler? How long does it take you to come up with a plot for Moreton? Does it all come at once, or does it evolve as you're writing? I very rarely plot the entire story before I write. I think as the books have progressed and my writing has progressed, I know more before I start, and I know what will work and what won't work and where the plot holes are. But I still never plot the entire thing, and sometimes I'll be writing and I'll think, my goodness, I don't know where this story is going, but it always works out in the end. Francis Underhill, what's the most surprising or interesting fact you've discovered whilst doing research for your books? Oh, there have been lots of things, but I think probably the whole premise of the America ground I found most surprising and interesting, which, if you haven't read it, the basic gist of the background to the story is that an area of land outside of Hastings was reclaimed from the sea, and in the 1820s a group of about 1,000 people lived there and worked there, and they had a pub and schools and businesses, and they felt that because the area had come from the sea and wasn't an original part of England, that they could declare it a state of America. They were independent, and they raised the American flag and said they weren't going to pay taxes to the king anymore. And that's kind of the background story to the America ground. And that, I think, is probably the most surprising and interesting fact. It sounds a bit implausible to me, but it's true. David Bess, will you sell the movie rights? Probably. I think, to be honest, when I've been asked this before, I think it would make for a better kind of Sunday night television drama rather than films. Maybe. I'll have to see. Karen Phipps Cooper, when did you decide or know that you wanted to write books? What prompted you to write genealogy mysteries? I think I've pretty well covered that one. When did I decide I wanted to write books? I've always really enjoyed English at school, and I always was writing stories at home, and that kind of evolved into the non-fiction books that I did, which then went to, and I really enjoyed that process, and that prompted me then to look at fiction writing more seriously, and that led to me doing the master's degree in creative writing, and it kind of all led from there. Marie Thompson, how many words does one of your books contain? So now they're about 110, the last two have been about 110,000 words for, that's the Wicked Trade and the Spyglass File. The novellas are anything between 30 and 50,000 words, and the Suffragette Secret, the short story, was 30,000 words. So I'd say an average novel is about 100,000 probably. Danny Kimmel Crossley, do you do your own family's genealogy? Yes, I have done for a number of years, and very active in that when I get time around working and writing. Yes, I do a lot on various strands of my family tree. Yes, and that, I think, is the last question. So if you have any more, we'll do another one at another point if that doesn't answer everyone's questions. So thank you for sending them in, and I will post this now. Thank you. Bye.